Okay, I'm going to give you a little introduction to some exciting components of the Garden of Forking Paths, which is Ryan McEwen's system for knowing trees. So the Garden of Forking Paths, as you know, relies on dichotomies, dividing and splitting. You look at a specimen, you have to make a choice. Are we going down one path or are we going down another path? Those are the forking paths. In the Garden of Forking Paths, you will need to learn how to see plants. Most people have botanical blindness. This is awful. When botanically blind people look at plants, they might just see a green blob. They might think about a tree the same way they think about a light pole. And thus they are ignorant and much poorer than they could be. They do not know that trees are alive. The trees observe with their millions of little eyes. Trees have evolutionary wisdom, which is much deeper than humans. Trees feel, and each one is unique. In the Garden of Forking Paths, you need to learn how to see plants. To see plants, it is often helpful to learn some botany words. Those words refer to specific aspects of plants. There is a whole language of plants. You don't need to learn that language. But in the Garden of Forking Paths, we will use some special words, not too many, just enough. Here is the Garden of Forking Paths. In the Garden of Forking Paths, we need to focus on words that will help you decide which fork to take. Here are some words: like opposite, alternate, simple, compound, lobed, smooth, needles versus scales, groups of needles, angled needles, or flat needle. On the back side of the sheet, I'm going to hand you a sheet, but on the second page of the Garden of Forking Paths, we have these same words kind of repeated: compound and simple, smooth or not smooth, and so forth. If you learn these words, you can learn which fork to take. You can look at the feature of the plant and make a choice where to go. So here are the words, and I'm going to teach you in this lecture some of the words, and then our first field expedition, we will look at these things in the field. This is going to be the first part of it, is to try to get your brain to work in this way. Once your brain starts to work in this way, then you're going to have some botanical skills, and you can build on those and build on those and build on those. You can become good at field botany. But it starts with training your brain to think in this forking way, and learning a few botany words will help you with that. Okay, so at the start of the Garden of Forking Paths, if we head down the broadleaf side of things, those are mostly deciduous trees. They're mostly angiosperms, but that's a separate topic. There's this first fork, and this first fork is very important, and the fork is between opposite and alternate. And in this fork, you're thinking about how the branches are arranged on the stem, or how the buds are arranged on the stem. When you start looking at plants and thinking about that feature, you're starting to see plants for what they are. So for example, this is a little bit difficult to see, but here's a branch, here's a branch, here's a branch. These are alternating one after another on the stem. This is a very important feature for you to be able to recognize if you want to learn trees, or really any plants. This is as compared to opposite. In this case, the branches are actually opposite of one another. So they're directly across from each other on the stem. This is opposite here, and this is alternate. And I'm going to teach you this little, I think it's called a mnemonic device, madcap buck. This is for woody plants, and I'll teach it to you now, and we'll teach it again later. That's maple, ash, dogwood. Those are the mad. Cap is the family Caprifoliaceae, and buck is buckeye. If you have a woody plant that's opposite, you're probably madcap buck. It's one of those. So immediately, all the hundreds of species it could be are narrowed down dramatically. Alternate is not that, so you're heading the other way. Here's a branch, or this is actually leaves on the stem. Here's one, here's one, here's one. Alternate. Here are twigs across from each other on a plant that's honeysuckle, which is Capra foliaceae, right across from each other. That's opposite. Alternate and opposite. So we're going to be finding some plants that are one or the other of these. Now the next fork in the garden of forking paths, and we're going to head down the opposite side, and we're going to look at this, and we really just want to learn these words: simple versus compound. This is a kind of leaf. If you have a simple leaf, it's one leaf, one petiole. So this is a maple leaf. Here's the leaf, here's the petiole. Versus a compound leaf, this is a hickory leaf, and this whole thing is the leaf. And these are what are called leaflets. So one leaf, many leaflets. You need to learn, when you look at a plant, whether you're seeing a leaf that's compound or whether it's a leaf that's simple. And in addition, if you're looking at a compound leaf, and a compound leaf is one leaf, this whole thing is the leaf, and these are leaflets, how many leaflets are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so here we have simple. This is one leaf, one petiole. This is compound, one leaf, many leaflets. This is another example. This is oak on this side. This is ash on this side. This is one leaf, one petiole. This is one leaf, many leaflets. This whole thing is the leaf. Each of these is a leaflet. Okay, so you're going to need to learn to see this. You're going to need to learn to see whether or not what you're looking at is a simple or a compound leaf, and then be able to count the leaflets in some cases. Okay, the next thing the next set of words in this forking path, and again, these are all things you're going to see in the field, so you don't have to memorize this now, but it's going to just trying to prime your mind to be able to do well next week, is whether the leaf you're dealing with is egg-shaped or lobed. This is like an egg shape, and this leaf is lobed. Then the next piece, and this is pretty straightforward, hopefully. This looks like an egg, and this is lobed. And then the next piece is whether or not the leaf is toothed or smooth. So we've come down this broadleaf, opposite or alternate, opposite. Simple versus compound, simple. Egg leaves are lobed, then down to the next, toothed or smooth. So this is forking and forking and forking again. Okay, so in this case, we've got a lobed leaf. Here are the lobes. It doesn't look like an egg shape. And now we need to know whether it's toothed or smooth. Toothed or smooth. And this is where we're going to look at the margin of the leaf. This is called the leaf margin. Actually, this all the way around here, this edge is the leaf margin. If it's toothed, that's these little saw teeth on here. We call this serrate, like a serrated knife. You need to know the word serrate. So this is a serrated margin is toothed, like a saw, versus a smooth margin. And this is the margin of the leaf right here. The smooth margin, we call this entire. This is another word you need to know, entire. So you need to know what we call an entire margin is smooth. This is two maples. This one is tooth. See the little tooth right here? Yes, we have to look at plants that carefully sometimes. And this one has no teeth. It's smooth. This is an smooth entire margin. This is a toothed margin. Based on that feature, we can know this is red maple and this is sugar maple. This is really important in the garden of forking paths, to be able to figure out which feature is really important and then be able to distinguish the features from one another. This is what we're going to learn to do in the field. So if we go down this way towards opposite and we head down this way towards compound, we have a couple of other words to learn. The first one is palm, like the palm of your hand. This is buckeye, for example, the word you need to know is palmate. That just means like palm of your hand. So if we say a palmate leaf, then you know that it's like this. So if we say, we can, about this plant, if we see one in the field, we can say it's opposite, it's compound, because these are leaflets, and this whole thing is a leaf. Opposite, compound, palmate. If you go opposite, compound, palmate, you go buckeye. Buckeye, in this case, is supposed to give you an idea of the taxonomic area of the species. There are more than one buckeye. But it gets you started, and it gets you a long way towards the taxonomic identification. The Garden of Forking Paths is only supposed to get you started. The actual fine-tuning of your taxonomic knowledge comes with experience and comes with working with the key, which we'll try to do possibly in this class. I'm using buckeye to represent a group of related plants. Now, another term that you need to know down here, so for forking the other path, I call it feather here. This is like a feather. So you can imagine that this leaf is a bit like a feather. There's a central part of it, and there's things coming off. This is also called pinnate. This is a word you need to know, pinnate. A pinnate leaf has a long central stem, which we call the rachis. This is the rachis, off of which come these things, which are called leaflets. So a rachis and leaflets is part of a pinnate leaf. Also, see this coming right across from this one? This is opposite. Opposite pinnate. That helps you. That gets you down the path of Garden of Forking Paths. You need to know the word pinnate and compare it and contrast it to palmate. We'll encounter leaves that are pinnate. Sometimes I might say the word pinnately compound. Then you know that it's a leaf like this, and this whole thing is a leaf, and these, each one is a leaflet. Okay, so this is a nice overview of the words. These words all work on the alternate portion of the garden. So at the top of this, we went broadleaf opposite. If we go alternate, we flip the page over, and we'll see this when you're in the field. That's this bit on the back side, or the second page. We have the same words again: simple, compound, smooth versus not smooth. This is entire, remember that. Here we're counting the number of leaflets. So this is all, and this is toothed, like serrate. So these, all the words that you've already learned apply over on this side as well. So now you know basically all the words you need to know down this path, this Garden of Forking Paths. Now, we haven't seen them in person yet, so we have to go out in the field together. That's what we'll do the first day, and meet some trees, talk about the tree identities, and look at the features. That's down this side. Now, on the other side, you don't really need to know special words. Awns versus needles, this is pretty obvious. I showed you this the first day. You do need to know one simple thing, which is that a group of needles in a pine is called a fascicle. This is an example of a tree that has needles in groups, which we call a fascicle. After that, so it's single needle, then it's whether it's flat or angled. Now I have to show you that in the field, but it's not a special word. And then the needles are very small, so that's not a big deal. This is a close-up view of a fascicle of a pine. So this is a group of needles all coming together. And one thing we'll do in the field is count the number of needles in the fascicle. If you count the number of needles in the fascicle, sometimes you can know what pine it is. Sometimes if you're in a forest and the trees are really tall, there's stuff on the ground, you pick it up, you go, oh, look at this, it's a fascicle. How many needles in there? 2. Ah, I know what this is. So this is a good way to learn plants, or a good word you need to know to learn plants. And so that is the conclusion of this introduction to words in the Garden of Forking Paths. Thanks for your time and attention, and we'll see you in the field soon.